Hello and welcome back to the Simuldub Saints, your guide to seasonal anime dubs. I'm your host, Lace Kid, and with me as always is my trusty co-host.
Hello, I am Archangel, lover of cat girls.
You've been listening to our theme song, Wherever I Go, from friend of the podcast, Ampren. Please check out their awesome music, link in the description.
This episode of the Simuldub Saints is sponsored by the fine folks over at Compstar. More about them at the end.
I suppose it was a matter of time before Comstar became a sponsor. Oh gosh. Well, yeah, we're back. Sorry for the week off. The last episode came out while I was at Anime Expo, which meant we didn't really have the ability to record while I was out and about. So this past week we didn't have one. I apologize for the downtime, but we're back! And we're going back to our roots because it's time to go summer Simuldub surfing because we're going into a new season. That means it's time for a seasonal overview.
Yep. A few of these have already started with the dubs, and many more of them have already started with the subs. But better Nate than Lever, right?
Indeed. Plus, hey, it's interesting to go through this, and honestly, I actually feel like this is a more manageable amount of shows than it was last season. Last season, there was like a torrent of these. There's still plenty, but I don't know for a fact there are less Simuldubs this season, but it feels like it.
Certainly fewer that are, oh my god, we have to watch this.
Oh, that's absolutely true. But I just meant in total, because this number of shows.
So, yeah, last season was too much, honestly.
I agree. That was quite a bit. Well, let's begin with our friends over on High Dive. And we got The Dangers in My Heart Season 2, which has already begun.
Yep, and it's just more of the same, absolutely adorable. The relationship is progressing, so it's not one of these stasis shows, which I can't stand.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'm very much glad that it is not that.
Yeah, no, they are growing and learning and becoming braver.
But yeah, the adorkableness continues. We were both big fans of the previous season. Still a big fan of this season. Dangers in My Heart is Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good time to watch. And what I love about High Dive is they actually tell us when things are. Speaking of things to come, Ark, do you want to breathe this title into existence, or should I?
Well, the title is My Instant Death Ability is Overpowered, but since you're the one who's actually watched this subbed, I think I will leave it to you to talk about it, because to my mind, this is either going to be Boring Town or quite interesting. And,
Ark, this show bounces off walls. This show eats paste and bounces off walls.
Okay.
Except for when it's actually emotional, which does surprisingly happen from time to time in the show. And when it hits, it hits like a rocket. But 9 times out of 10, this show is bonkers.
Okay. Well, as we'll get to in a bit, we've learned that, just because one of us really, really, really likes something doesn't necessarily mean the other of us does.
Oh, absolutely. There is definitely a difference in taste between us on certain things. We do like a lot of the same things.
There's one thing that actually practically got us into an argument earlier, and we'll get to that.
Oh, we'll get into that. Absolutely. My Instant Death Ability is Overpowered is fun because it's an overpowered main character. They are not kidding. He literally just has to look at you and say, dead. He doesn't even have to look at you. He just has to think about you. You're dead. You're dead. That's it. And he doesn't grow into that power. If anything, he grows into learning how to use it less. He starts saying, and by the way, his ability is not just on humans. He can tell the tree that it's dead, and it's dead. He can tell the mountain that it's dead, and the mountain will collapse. He can tell your finger that it's dead, and your finger will die instead of you. This guy is ridiculous.
Okay, then.
He also does not understand emotions or other people, but he's trying.
Okay.
It's a show. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of fun to be had here. It's not, if you're looking for something serious, it's not your jam. Not at all. And I don't know what else to say about it, but it is fun. Actually, I do have one other thing to say about this show. In some of the shows we watched earlier today, because some of these shows came out subbed and we watched them to get better taste, I was pretty judgmental of people. You will never find a group of characters I am more judgmental towards than the so-called heroes in this show. I have absolute and sheer contempt for one in particular.
Fun.
And I really wish he would die. Which might happen, because my death ability is overpowered. I don't think I can really say anything else, but that dub begins Friday, July 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
And that brings us into the why are you dubbing this category of Chained Soldier. We talked about this last time, because we had these announcements for High Dive last time. This is a choice that they have made to dub this.
I think this falls under my my continual advocacy for keeping anime and hentai as separate things.
Oh boy.
Which, don't get me wrong, I watch a lot of hentai, but I like my hentai to my hentai, and I like my anime to my anime.
This one, I watched the first episode. There's a parallel world thing that people can get sucked into where there are demons and monsters and things, and they kill things, of course. But there is the hero group of ladies that fight. Yes, and they are specifically ladies that have superpowers that fight back. But they need to get their powers from a guy who is a chained soldier. And kink ensues when our main character ends up in this world and is saved, but turns out he's able to give them that power, and
Yeah, honestly, I don't think this is something I'll be interested in, but we'll have to watch to make sure.
Well, it says genre's action, adventure, and then eki, and I think that's accurate.
Yeah, the whole premise reminds me of, I think I said this before, like the before the internet, there were certain franchises that were basically just an excuse to have BDSM fantasy. Gore, GOR would be the archetype,
You
at least that
mentioned
I
it,
know of.
yes.
Right. So I think this is just in that tradition, which is fine if you're into that, but I am not.
Yeah. Well, anyway, if you are into this sort of thing, I mean, I don't kink shame. Enjoy what you enjoy. Chain Soldier will be coming out with a dub Monday, July 29th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
So next is Level 1 Demon Lord and One Room Hero.
I love this. This is too hilarious.
It's interesting.
The Demon Lord seeks revenge on Max, the hero, after humiliating defeat 10 years ago. Unfortunately, Max isn't the dashing do-gooder the Demon Lord remembers. Max now has no interest in epic rematch after his humiliating fall from hero to zero. Refusing to accept this new status quo, the Demon Lord vows to whip Max back into shape, but it certainly won't be easy. From hero to neat.
Okay,
And the Demon Lord cannot accept this. He must defeat the neat and turn him back into a hero, so he can beat him.
Okay. Well, just looking at the thumbnail, I approve the tall lady's fashion choices, but
You would. I'm actually curious about this one. I agree with you that you've mentioned previously. This looks a lot like Delta Part-Timer. I agree. And
it's either going to be really good or really meh.
I agree. And hopefully the former. And I'll definitely be giving this one a shot when it comes out. Tuesday, August 20th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's the time that High Dive really likes. And that is the end of the new Simuldubs. But Helck is continuing! We've done an entire podcast on Helck.
Yep. Helck yeah.
Helck yeah. It's a heck of a good show. Honestly, show continues to absolutely blow my mind. Also, that second intro is an absolute banger.
Oh, yeah.
So, Yeah,
Got kind of a 40s bounce feel to it.
it does. It does. Honestly, if you haven't started watching Helck yet, it's all there. You can catch up plenty of time, and things are actually getting really interesting in plot. So I do recommend it, even if you haven't started it. Never too late to jump on that bandwagon. And it's Helck. Big muscle man fight bad guys.
All right. So now over to Crunchyroll, where first up we have oh god, what's the full title here?
A journey through another world, raising kids while adventuring.
Yeah. So this has already gotten 2 dub episodes up. I cannot recommend this highly enough, at least if you like adorableness. There's nothing deep here, at least I don't imagine there
No,
will
this
be.
is the
It's
most.
just
In terms of depth, this is the kiddie pool.
yeah, rather literally. So premise, guy gets isekai'd apparently because a relatively new god, literally he wakes up to a new god saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I accidentally
Apparently the
killed
god
you.
was trying yeah, he was trying to repair a stitch in space-time and the needle went too far and killed him. I think it's fairly literally the
That
explanation.
is exactly the explanation we got.
And so he's one of 5 gods. He's young, he's adorable. You kind of want to give him head pats, but he's like, look, I'll make you I'll give you some good powers. I'll put you in a good place. So our dude wakes up in the middle of a forest. It's a forest. There's some wolves around. He kills the
Apparently, it's very
wolves.
powerful.
Gone.
We learn later this place is very
He-
dangerous.
yeah, it's like an end level dungeon, but to him, he's just like, okay. And he comes across 2 blue-haired children, twins, so a little boy and a little girl, and they, at least at first, don't really talk. And he's like, "Well, I can't just leave you guys here." One thing that's quite convenient is in his inventory when he meets them, it just suddenly gets a free spawn of children's clothes, which
Yeah,
two,
it's
two kids, two
adventuring with
clues is
kids,
there you
and that he's raising, and reminds me if it's for my daughter, I'd even defeat the demon lord.
go.
That's the vibes I get from this.
Okay then,
I know you like that one quite a bit.
indeed.
But yeah, we've watched 2 episodes of the dub because the dub is already running.
Very well done. I don't know who's voice acting the kids, but they're having way too much fun.
It's they're doing a damn good job, absolutely.
All right. Next up, Alya sometimes hides her feelings in Russian, which I have to approve of on some level because my Space Station 14 and my CM14 character is terminally Russian. Um, but why don't you explain this? Okay.
Yeah, I'm the one that actually watched this because my buddies at AX and I decided they wanted to watch it, so I watched it with them and subbed at the time because the dub has not started yet. Although we're 2 episodes in, and going into this week, we'll be getting to the 3rd on the 17th. I imagine that's when we'll get in the first dubbed episode. Uh, Alya speaks Russian, and our main character also speaks Russian, but she does not know this. So she's hitting on him in Russian, effectively. She's calling him cute and adorable and all these other really goofy things. And he's like, "What does that mean?" She's like, "Oh, I said you're disgusting." And he's just like, sitting here going, "I understand the Russian, you know. I understand you, but I can't say that because that would be awkward." Yay!
Like, he's just waiting for the perfect moment to just be a wise ass back in Russian.
He's literally has a freak out in the first episode about how do I emote. He doesn't know how to handle the situation.
Ah, well, I
Like,
just told him, but
yes, well, yeah. Unfortunately, you
you gotta
cannot
wait
punch
for
through
the
the fourth
perfect
wall.
moment. Yeah, but you gotta wait for the perfect moment to have maximum impact.
Indeed. But yeah, it's a goofy show. I do recommend it. I don't know that this is one that we're gonna watch, but if you like your rom coms, this is a solid rom com. And now for the one that blew my mind today. Bye bye Earth. Wow. So the concept of this is that Belle LeBlanc is the only human in a world of demi-humans, monster people. Very much get a Boy and the Beast vibes, beast people. But to them, she's ugly and featureless and creepy. She's been raised to be a warrior.
Yeah, she looks deformed to them, I should think, which, so their visceral reaction is understandable.
I don't blame them for the. We had a little bit of a talk in this episode. I don't blame them for their visceral reaction. It's their continued reaction that gets me to go, guys, come on.
Oh, sure. But I just kind of roll my eyes and say people are people, whereas LK gets all hot and bothered about it because he's still an idealist.
I expect things of people, and if people don't do that, I'm going to judge them for it. I expect people to be good to people, especially people who do good to you. If you're not, I'm going to call you a shithead, and these people were shitheads.
I'm not arguing that. I've just learned better.
My point is, you guys were kind of assholes, but she's on a journey to find people like her. And she's been raised by this guy who's a wanderer. And to become a wanderer, you have to take on a curse. In his case, he can only teach. He can't use his knowledge for anything else. In her case, she has to forget him, and he's been the one that's been like a father to her. Ow. That hurt. So we don't have a release date for this dub yet, but the sub just came out on the 12th, this past Friday, actually. So, as we record this. So I imagine that we'll likely see this in 2 Fridays on the 26th. That's when I guesstimate a dub. We have no release date because it's Crunchyroll. They don't do that. But we can at least guess. Well, that's that one. Ark, why don't you tell us about this next one? Because my commentary is literally just a laugh.
And we didn't actually put the what was the title? Because I can't read it off the thing.
It's Delicio's Nursery.
So basically, the setup, as I understand it, I haven't watched because I want to wait for the dub on this. The setup is there's this one guy who's taking care of all these kids. I'm not sure if this particular guy is a vampire or not. Doesn't really matter. But he's being sent off on this quest, and he's like, okay, I'll agree if you guys. You say to the guys showing up to ask him, he's like, I'll agree if you guys watch over my kids here. And so we have a bunch of at least, I think, 4 Bishy vampires, adults who, or is it 3 guys and 1 girl? I'm not sure. Anyway, but basically people who are completely clueless and, very vampires and so forth. And all of a sudden they have to deal with a bunch of, I want to say, 1 year to 6 years is the range, it seems. And it looks
right,
thoroughly
yes.
adorable. So it seems to be in the same vein as the Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting, or what was the one with the 2 hitmen and
Buddy Daddies!
Buddy Daddies, yes. It has a very Buddy Daddies feel, but in a more in a slightly larger
Buddy Daddies, but vampires instead of hitmen.
Right, and there's more kids, there's more adults. It looks thoroughly adorable.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and I think it says something of how I'm getting older and still saying it. Basically, anything with cute kids seems to get my attention by default. So, I won't say it's a standout without having seen it, but this is the one that I'm the most looking forward to personally. Purely personally.
Definitely not what I would have picked, but it's I'm certainly curious.
Just for pure entertainment value, I'm not expecting anything profound.
Fair enough. It'll be what it'll be, but I'd certainly give it a shot, because, hey, why not?
All right, and next up is Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest, which I think is either a sequel or season 2 or something to a show called Fairy Tail. Okay, so Fairy Tail, for people like Archangel who lived under a rock, was a very big action anime franchise quite a while back. It ended completely. This is not season 2. Season 2, there was like a lot of seasons of Fairy Tail. This is the sequel, because there's a sequel manga.
with the same name. This is the writer continuing the story on a 100 years quest. If you like fairy tale, you're in for more fairy tale. If you're like me and you got bored of fairy tale, you're not going to be watching this because you'd have to catch up on more fairy tale to watch more fairy tale, and you can only see the power of friendship save the universe so many times. Literally every bad guy in fairy tale turns into a good guy. Now you know me, Ark. I love my redeemed villains, but it loses power when it's literally every single one.
Okay, well.
But, I mean, it's fairy tale. I'm sure the action will be great.
So the Vince McMahon school of storytelling.
No, there is a lot of pervy shit, so maybe.
No. What I meant was, in the latter years, when we got bored, but it was just kind of a dig at how, it was always the same tropes, and there was never any guess as to what would happen. So in other words, not varying up the resolution of a conflict.
I guess. But, yeah, fairy tale. Don't know what else to say about fairy tale other than, hey guys, did you know fairy tale is a thing? But they've got 2 episodes out already. The last one came out the day we recorded this on a Sunday. So I imagine next Sunday, the 21st, we'll start seeing that dub. I'd be shocked if they don't keep the same cast.
Unless somebody's unavailable or something.
Pretty much everyone in there is still major known voice actors, so.
Yeah, then I don't see why they'd change it up.
Nor I. So that's coming. But coming up after that is Makeine, Too Many Losing Heroines. Ark, you tell us about this one because you got a little more into that than I did.
I looked at a couple trailers. So I really don't know what to make of this exactly. It's real world high schoolers. It seems to feature 1 boy, 3 girls. I'm not sure what the term "losing heroine" means. The dub the trailer.
They're referring to romantic situations, girls getting turned down. That much I caught.
Okay. So it just seems to be 3 oddball girls, 1 boy. I have no idea if this is going to be rom-com. I don't know if this is going to be a friend-com. We'll see. But it just seems to be kind of goofy. And as you put it, it's either going to be hilarious or painful, and we'll see which.
Yeah, teenagers being idiots is going to be hilarious or painful. Not particularly interested, but I'd be willing to give it a try.
I couldn't really get a feel for any of the characters from the trailers, so I have no opinion yet.
All right. And that one, I should be more on the ball here. I should have done this ahead of time, but I'm doing it on the fly. Fuck it, we'll do it live. Well, episode 1 just came out on Saturday the 13th. So my guess is Saturday the 27th, we'll be seeing that dub.
So next up is No Longer Allowed in Another World.
This one, I love this premise.
Indeed. So, first of all, I have to say I have to approve it by default because there is a very energetic cat girl involved. So, but the premise is the MC seems to be loosely based on a real life famous Japanese author named Osamu Dazai. Did I pronounce that right? Okay.
Actually, yes, you did.
Dazai. Okay. I've never heard of this guy, just to be clear, but he seems to have lived and written in the early 20th century. Several of his works are still considered modern classics of Japanese literature. So, based on the time frame and the continued relevance for Americans, I get the feeling he's purely in those 2 terms. I get the feeling he's a rough Japanese equivalent to, say, someone like F. Scott Fitzgerald in the American literature tradition, purely in terms of when he wrote and the fact that some of his works are still very relevant. But as I wrote in my notes here, I doubt that their actual works have anything in common because America and Japan were having very different experiences during that time. Which is outside the scope of this. So anyway, so the MC is actually an author who is loosely based on this guy who is isekai'd, and I'm not sure what is going on, but it's it's an interesting take on an MC to base him on a very a very smart author. Um, and we'll see what's going on.
Indeed. I like the idea that we have a real world person in a. We're going, hey, he got created because he was in an isekai. I'm like, oh, haha, cute. But you know what? I want to see what they do with this.
Yep. Plus, did I mention Catgirl? Anyway.
Also, did we mention he's trying to die and it just does not work?
Oh, I did not get that from the trailers. I must have missed
It's
that.
literally in the description.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
Pulled into another worldly adventure with cute sidekicks and superpowers, you'd think Osamu hit the jackpot. Nope. From a time before Pixels, early 20th century gloomy author just wants to find a quiet place to meet his maker, not to rack up a fee. Sadly, his poetic demise is constantly thwarted by inconvenient heroics.
Well, okay then.
The first episode is literally titled "I Must Commit Double Suicide."
Oh, that's right. Because this real guy, Osamu Dazai, according to Wikipedia, he perished in a lover's suicide. So.
Well, I didn't know that one, but there you go. That explains why they're going with that trope. But yeah, the sub is already available. Came out back on July 9th. That being the case, I imagine July 23rd is when we'll start seeing that dub.
All right.
And that leads us to Our Last Crusade, Rise of a New World, Season 2. Season 2. I'm amazed this got a Season 2. I almost watched Season 1 back when that was a thing, but I kind of never got into it, and everyone pretty much told me this was incredibly mid show, and I have no reason to doubt that. So, yeah. Our Last Crusade has got a Season 2. But you know what? I'm all for shows getting a continuation later down the line, because we all have that show that we love that didn't do well that we want more. Give me Infinite Dendrogram, you cowards! Yeah, that's about all I can say on that, just because I don't know a whole lot about Our Last Crusade. It's a war story about reclaiming the world and all that good nonsense.
Okay, well,
but
I'll give season 1. I'll watch an episode or two.
Try it out with you sometime. I'm actually curious if you're gonna do it. I'll do that with you.
Okay,
because
I mean, I'm into that sort of thing. So,
but back on July 10th, the first episode aired. So July 24th, which is a Wednesday, we should probably have a dub. Giant asterisks on these probablys. I'm guesstimating based on the 2-week lag for Simuldubs.
all right. So next up is one that already has 2 dub episodes out, and I think we both are going to unreservedly recommend.
Yes. No, the show is bonkers, and I love it.
Yeah. So it's called Quality Assurance in Another World. I'm not sure how much I should say, because otherwise we'll be here all day.
Yeah, we don't want to give you actual show like full plot synopsis, but guy's a QA tester in a full dive MMO. I think we can say that much.
Yeah, and things go kind of off the rails.
Things go very off the rails, and I think that's about all we can really say. But very interesting.
It's not in the tone or anything, but the premise reminds me very strongly of The Matrix, if that makes any sense.
I could see it. I get a little bit of Sword Art Online.
I haven't seen that, but from what little I know about it, yes, that would actually probably be a better comparison.
Just minus the if you die in the game, you die in real life shit.
Well, that might be true. We don't know.
Well, I'm going to let you double up because you care about this one more than I do, and I care about the next one more than you do. So it's time for you to double up, my dude.
Okay, well, next up is Shy Season 2, and my only comment is let's fucking go.
Yeah, no, I like Shy, okay. Shy was all right. You loved it.
Yeah. It's got so much heart that Mati got jealous, all right?
Well, episode 1 was back on the 1st, which means we're probably getting the first dubbed episode tomorrow, the Monday the 15th. Yeah, you're gonna hear in the past for those of you hearing it. There's no way I'm getting this edited in time for that. But yeah, that dub is right around the corner.
Right. So next, I will leave to you.
Do you believe in magic? Because we have a sequel to Tower of God many years later, I gave up on this. I didn't think we'd see this. But yeah, Tower of God is back. I don't know what to say if you haven't really gotten into Tower of God yet. Archangel is literally the only person I've ever heard of who didn't like Tower of God. I'm dead serious, Ark. Everybody loves this thing.
Well, all I can say is you said you've got to catch up. I'm like, all right. So yesterday, in fact, or in the day before, it's like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and watch this. So bored, so bored, so bored. I will say it's not that it's badly made or anything. It's just none of the characters hit for me. They were either annoying or just boring for me.
I would have thought you would have fallen for Coon.
No.
Interesting.
There's no information about him. I have no idea what he is.
Well,
who he is.
You keep watching.
There's no context. Well,
the show is a mystery, you ding dong.
Well, it did not build a sense of intrigue. It was just a bunch of disjointed stuff with no context, no nothing.
That is a incredibly unique take on Tower of God.
I don't know.
But, I mean, power to you. You don't like it, but...
Yeah, and for the record, I watched 5 full episodes quite painfully. And after that, I'm like, you know what? If this hasn't hooked me by now, I've got better things to do with my time. So,
unless you will never learn to hate Rachel.
Well, whatever.
Everyone who's seen Tower of God knows exactly what I'm talking about. Ark's random hatred of Tower of God aside, very fucking good show. Very well beloved show. I got to the point where we're waiting for this because Ark season 1 was 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody was expecting this to... I mean, they always said, oh yeah, we'll come back to it. Uh-huh. Sure. Well, apparently, yes, they will. And already have, in fact. Episode 1 was back on the 7th, a week ago. So next week, the Sunday the 21st, we'll probably get our first dubbed episode. Probably being optimal words again. As someone who has read basically the entirety of what this season's going to be, for those of you that do have good taste in like Tower of God, I'm teasing you at this point, Ark.
Mm-hmm.
You're eating good, but you're eating different. Pretty much no one you know from season 1 is in season 2. Is continuing to expand on the crazy world that is Tower of God. And I will punish the heathen.
Sounds like the second season of Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, where it's just different, but still good.
I mean, yes and no, because literally, at least season 2 of it's not different in the way Ghost in the Shell is different. It's more the same in terms of the type of story it's doing.
Oh, you feel like a completely new cast.
Completely new cast.
All right.
But anyways, that leads us out of the contention zone of Tower of God that is a very interesting contention to something that I'm not sure is going to be contentious or not.
I'll need to see this to see whether it's worthwhile or not. But the trailer, it wasn't even a trailer; it was just a segment that
that's all we can find. Yeah,
right. Which was enough to certainly, I want to see. It's called True Beauty. It appears to be some sort of romance show. I don't know if it's a rom-com exactly. But from what I saw, the main character, the heroine, she's very much an otaku, just kind of, she's cute enough, but she doesn't go out of her way to make herself pretty normally and so forth. But apparently when she wants to, she can make herself into like a beauty queen. And I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do with that, but it's something, and there's at least 2 very hot guys and so forth, at least one of whom, who we saw in the preview, is also an otaku, but also kind of an asshole.
Yeah, I'm
So,
honestly falling asleep on this one.
yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm curious to see what they'll do with it. It's either going to be Snoresville or it will be interesting. But it's definitely not an LK show.
No, it's definitely not. But that doesn't have to
No,
be to be
I'm,
good.
I'm gonna check this out on my own. I'm not gonna inflict it on you
Well,
unless you really piss me off.
oh. So what you're telling me is I need to trade you and watch Tower of God, the rest of Tower of God with you, and then I'll have to watch this with you. That's what I'm hearing.
No.
I'm running with the gag. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and the next one is one that we will tell you this exists. We cannot evaluate this.
Twilight Out of Focus.
It is a male romance show. The animation looks good. It looks very artfully done. I have no interest and less understanding of this sort of thing.
Also, you jumped a little bit ahead. True Beauty begins August 7th.
Oh.
We don't know when the dub is, but I imagine 2 weeks later on August 21st. But we don't know because, wow, that's a late start for August for True Beauty. But anyway, yeah, we don't. Neither of us are really qualified to talk on gay romance. Maybe we can get J-Mac to talk about this one.
Yeah, the production value seems quite high.
It does seem quite high, and I
worth.
will say I do like the idea that these guys are, professionally engaged first, and then they kind of go, oh, well, maybe.
Mhm.
And I will also say, and I would not say this if this was an American production, but being a Japanese production, this is actually incredibly bold. And honestly risk-taking. I'm not someone who normally makes a comment on that sort of thing, but for an anime to do this, that's really surprising in a good way. Happy to see this sort of thing, even if it's not my thing. It's good to have these there. There's something for everybody.
Okay, I assumed that, at least in the Japanese mindset, this was going after female viewership, but...
I mean, it probably doesn't hurt, but I get, honestly, this is not normal. They don't normally do this sort of thing, and it's nice to see.
Cool.
This one is already going. July 4th was the first episode. So, this Thursday the 18th, we might have a dub.
All right. And next up... I don't know what to make of this.
VTuber legend. How I went viral after forgetting to turn on my stream. Nope, 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 nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
If I had to summarize this from my old man millennial perspective, as strange as that sounds these days, fuck off with this Zoomer bullshit. Or
we found the show I'd trade for a dub because there's a show, The Strongest Magician is a Demon Lord's Army is a Human, that I've been wanting to get a dub, and it's not. Trade. I want this out. Give me my dub back.
Yeah, well, apparently this is what the kids are into these days.
I will say it does look moderately funny, but not enough for me to actually watch it.
It looks very much not my generation, so it's
Same.
Another one where I don't
we're
really
both
have
too
the
old
ability
for this,
to evaluate this.
We're both way too old for this shit.
Yeah, so for Twilight of Focus, if you want a more informed opinion, I'd suggest seeking out somebody who actually is gay and see what they think once it comes out. As to,
And for VTuber Legend, find yourself a Gen Z person.
Yeah, somebody who's into VTubers.
Well, now it's time for something that I need pumped directly into my veins. Because this thing feels like it's made just for me. Why does nobody remember me in this world? We actually did watch this prior to recording. And I definitely enjoyed it, although I think the winner for me was Bye Bye Earth, which actually got a strong emotional reaction out of me. But this is the one I was most anticipating. The idea of being taken from your world into a world that doesn't remember you, that's the sort of shit that gives me the chills.
Yeah, it's literally A Wonderful Life sort of premise.
I could see that. I could see that comparison. I mean, the whole world gets deleted around him, whereas he basically never existed.
The setup is different, but that
I see what you're comparing it to. I see where you're getting at.
Being a stranger in your own world is exactly the same.
Yeah, no, that's... Ooh, man. And I will say it did not disappoint. I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be very interesting.
And you asked the
I have
question.
to say, the MC is very slow on the uptake, which is frustrating.
He
But
is, but he's not
he seems
dumb.
like the sort of person who, right? He seems like the sort of person who only reads nonfiction, which is probably why he doesn't have a frame of reference for what's happening to him.
You asked the question in your notes if this counted as an isekai, and having watched it, no, it does not.
I would agree.
But it was a good question.
An interesting point of conversation.
No, absolutely, and we didn't know when we were just writing our notes because we were just looking at trailers. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. Definitely some good action. This just came out this past Saturday the 13th. I'd expect our dub to hit on the 27th. And now for the one that you are most excited for.
Well, of the ones that we watched just prior to this, yes. So it's called Wistoria, Wand and Sword. It is the best thoroughly generic thing I've seen in quite some time.
That's fair.
It's
the animation is very good.
Right. Well, the age-old premise of like the one person who can't do magic at the Magic Academy, blah blah blah.
Hey, look, it's Black Clover. Hey, look, it's Mashal.
Yep. I think the character design, I couldn't tell you why, but there's something about the character design, particularly for the MC, that has a certain je ne sais quoi that
it's the Digimon goggles. Nice. It's got to be the Digimon goggles.
Digidestined battle attire. Ready? Goggles. I'm there.
That's part of it. It's not the goggles, it's his normal glasses.
They're his literal glasses, but they look like goggles.
No, they're two different things. He has his glasses, and then he has the goggles separately, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, yeah, and as LK says, the animation is just way better than the premise probably deserves. But the characters, for what they are, seem to be very well done. It's very, very nice. If you haven't seen, if you're relatively new to anime, watch this.
I wouldn't say that the characters are great yet, but they certainly have potential to be.
Oh yeah, I mean,
these are very stock characters right now.
Right. Yeah, it's so for anyone who's watched a lot of anime, this is all thoroughly generic, but it's extremely well done.
The animation is extremely well done. Everything else is good.
Yeah. There's just something about the presentation that just hits for me personally. I'm not going to pretend this is, the second coming of Akira or whatever. But
yeah, even Akira is not the second coming of Akira.
It was the first. It was the first classic anime. Yeah, I know. This was the first. That was the first classic anime title that popped into my head. Probably not the best one I could have chosen. But.
I think
actually, I probably should. It's not the second coming of Tenchi Muyo because there is a literal Rio.
There is
a familiar. Is Rio fucking Oki with
that's totally a cabin. That's totally
it's a cabin, but with sass rather than cute mode. So.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely am interested in seeing more. And yeah, that first episode came out back on the 7th. Again, the 21st will probably get a dub. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. Absolutely a good show.
Right, so that's all the new stuff.
Indeed, and now we have some continuing shows, including one that I really need to jump onto. Dead Demons! DEDEDEDE Destruction! I've been aware of this one for quite a while. Friend of the podcast, V-Lord, has told me that it is incredibly good. He's also told me to ignore the advice I heard previously and absolutely start on episode 0. I never watched a trailer before that I set up for this podcast, and then I watched that trailer. Why have I not started watching this yet? Ark, we're gonna watch this at some point, you and me.
It seems a little too hyper for my taste, but whatever.
I think you'll get a kick out of it the way but I could be wrong. I don't know. I would have thought you would have loved Tower of God, so what the fuck do I know?
Yeah, honestly, it's I think I said this on a previous podcast, but I'm having the Bruce Wayne reaction to "It's a Wonderful Life." It's like I can never get past the title.
You did say that last time it came up.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting past the title because it just makes my literary brain hurt.
Indeed. But that's continuing in. Also continuing is the latecomer in the middle of last season, My Hero Academia Season 7. It's Hero Academia. Good. It's a good story arc. I've read the manga for this portion. It's good stuff. You get stars and stripes, and that's going to be fun. The American hero shows up finally in the season arc. The America. Fuck yeah.
Okay. Well, my only note for this is it just says someday.
Someday, you and I would actually love to watch your take on this as you go. I might watch it with you sometime. You don't have to wait for me if you're interested in watching it, but I think I'd enjoy watching it with you.
For things that I actually really want to pay attention to, I prefer to watch by myself. But
That's fine. Also continuing, Loof.
Spice and Wolf, yes, the Merchant of the Wise Wolf. But that's literally both of our notes for this.
I saw your comment and I had nothing better to say, so I put the exact same comment. Floof. Spice and Wolf, Merchant meets Wise Wolf. It's been an absolute joy to go through it as someone who was tertiarily aware of the original Spice and Wolf, but I never actually watched it. I've really been getting enjoyment out of this remake, and from what I've been told, it's much more accurate to the book.
Yep. Yeah, I'd seen Holo all over the web without having any idea who she was, and now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And I am overjoyed to have met her.
Indeed. Also continuing into the season, that time I got reincarnated as a slime, Season 3. More slimy, gooey goodness, and hopefully less meetings.
So we also have each a couple of sub-only shows that we each happen to watch for our own interest and want to mention. So the
Indeed.
ones for me are, first of all, it's called Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, which apparently is based on a video game.
It was very interesting for me to see you put that on the list because that game is on my Steam wishlist and has been for years.
Okay.
I didn't know they were doing an anime for it, but they are apparently.
So you want to talk Studio Ghibli vibes?
Yeah, I can see that for this.
Yeah, so it's very much a fairy tale. It's very cute. I think this would actually be a good show to show a kid. Although it's certainly hitting with me, I'm going to keep watching it. So I'm not going to waste too much time explaining the premise. Take a look at it. If what you see interests you, take a look. The next one I think we both have.
There was one that we both took. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's this one called "The Magical Girl and the Evil Lieutenant Used to Be Arch Enemies." It is a bonkers rom-com, but in a very it's a very calm, dry, and then
I get love after world domination vibes.
Absolutely, but the presentation of it is it's almost British humor in the sense of very calm, dry, matter of fact, and then off the wall bonkers screaming, and then calm, dry, off the wall bonkers screaming. It's oh my god, this is adorable.
No, I could see why that would catch your attention. I just thought that the concept was great, but that does make it sound fun.
All right. So also, this one you need to watch. Okay. It's called Dahlia in Bloom: Crafting a Fresh Start with Magic Tools.
I did take notice of that. Not a strong notice, obviously, but I did see that.
It's very. I've watched one episode so far. Very, very cute. It's very, very technically an isekai in that office worker lady.
It reminds, based on your description, it reminds me a little bit in that sense of Faraway Paladin, where I don't exactly remember the previous world. Sort of do.
She doesn't seem to have any memories, at least conscious memories, of her previous life. She is right. She is the daughter of someone who makes magical tools, and so it seems to be very much like electrical engineering.
Actually, that's more what this reminds me of. This reminds me of Weakest Tamer in terms of memories. It's kind of half remembered things.
Well, Ivy has more than this. What this is I don't think she's even realizes she had a previous life, or at least it hasn't come up at all yet. It's just that she has these ideas which are clearly leaking through from Earth. Like when in the first episode, her best friend's like, when I grow up, I want to be a hairdresser, but it sucks how long it takes people's hair to dry and stuff. And she's like, "Oh, why? I'd make a device for that." And she literally gets her dad to help her make a modern hairdryer, but made with Magitech.
Oh, interesting.
And she's like 6. So, she doesn't seem to have, there's no mention whatsoever of a previous life on her end. So I don't think she's even aware of it. But she has
That is interesting.
she's just a genius from their perspective. But her skills in the actual construction are okay. So I think there's going to be a partner / fellow apprentice coming into it. Judging by the second episode, we'll see. First episode is cavity-inducing father and daughter bonding.
Right.
One other, I didn't actually bother listing because it was so late in the game, but Days with My Stepsister, which, I don't usually admit to watching things like this, but this is not what I thought it was.
Really? Okay.
It's not. I thought it would be porn.
Days with
It's
My
not.
Stepsister.
It's not. It's a surprisingly intense emotional drama. So if you're into that sort of thing, check it out. It's not porn, at least not yet. So, and it doesn't show any signs of going that route.
It's Japan and it's Stepsister. Just you wait.
Yeah, it is out and out a love story, but it's not like one of my hentai shows. Is my point.
Well, it's
so
not hentai,
just the reason I mention
but...
it. Right. Well, my point is, if anyone's interested in a surprisingly intense emotional drama, check it out.
God, you had to recommend something about Stepsister anime in this podcast.
Well, again, if it was what I thought it was, I wouldn't have brought it up.
We are all getting canceled.
Are you even listening to me?
I am. I'm reacting because, oh God.
I think in our very first episode, I said I am the trash person here. So
you did. That you did. Yeah. Well, is that the end of your list? Because you had more on your list than you had on your list. I think it is, but I would say the one that I did get it confused with, which I have not watched, and I'm probably not going to, is Love is Indivisible by Twins, which is... Oh, God.
Yeah, probably. That doesn't... Yeah, I'll just read the description just so everybody can facepalm. I'm going to read the description just so everybody can facepalm together. A high school boy is in love with 2 girls who happen to be twins and his childhood friends. If it was a hentai, I'd be down. But as an anime, why bother?
Because some people just want their not hentai. The not porn, it's a genre. That is a thing that people like for some reason.
Yeah, well, at least they didn't waste time dubbing it.
Well, things that I'm interested in, and that I do wish I had a dub, The Elusive Samurai. Samurai drama. I'm always down for samurai drama. That's actually
Japanese
something I kind of wish.
Of the Western.
Now, not this one particular, because this would not be the one that I'd want to start with. But we got a Monogatari show, and that show franchise is criminally underdubbed. You have to go to the audiobooks to get English voicing. Give me a Monogatari dub already. Come on, do it. The other one, of course, as mentioned, was the Magical Girl and the Evil Lieutenant used to be arch enemies. It looks fun. And then...
You skipped over one.
I did? I did! Failure Frame. One that I've heard about for years and years and years from its manga. I've always heard Failure Frame. I've heard about Failure Frame the same way I've heard about Solo Leveling. People just gush over the source material all the time. And I was so sure they were going to dub this, but they're not. Which is bonkers. Bonkers and insane that they're not dubbing this. This is another one of those, I'm a low-level... a low-level spellcaster will show that even the most minor of magics can be powerful. It's another one of those.
Well, like that, a novel series along those lines that I would highly recommend is Full Clearing a World Under a Goddess with Zero Believers. Just name dropping. If you're into this sort of thing, check it out. That's it.
But anyway, surprised that one didn't get dubbed. Then there's the one that similarly personally offends me, is the strongest magician in the Demon Lord's army was a human. I'm going to continue to cry and bitch and moan that this isn't getting dubbed because I really enjoyed that manga and I really got excited when they announced the anime. Why aren't you dubbing this one, Crunchyroll? Come on, this is such a cool concept. Main character's raised by a demon in the demon army, pretending to be a demon because otherwise they'd kill him, and he's got to figure out how to handle two worlds, demons and a human world. It's really cool and interesting, and we're not dubbing it. We needed those VTubers. We needed that more.
Well, I guess the moral of the story is the Why Isn't This Dubbed award will be highly contentious this season.
Indeed. I do believe that brings us to the end of our fun lists. I will say, this was gracefully a much smaller crop of Simuldubs than last time. Honestly, smaller crop of shows than last time, too. This is a little bit more of a muted season, but I think that's a good thing because last season was kind of insane. So I'm
Just a
kind
bit, yeah.
of glad to have that calm down a bit. Does look like we have some good stuff though. Like honestly, I think we'll be eating fine. It's not a fire season, not like last season or the season before. We are spoiled in 2024. Our winter and spring were absolute amazing feasts. This is letting the land recover.
Yep. And for those of you who had to defer some shows that you wanted to watch, now's the time to go catch up.
Absolutely. But there is good stuff here. So you're still going to be eating good. I guess that's all about I've got. Mark, do you have any closing thoughts on this season?
Nothing to add to what you said. I agree with your summation on all points. I think it only remains to thank our sponsor for this episode.
I guess so. So why don't we do that?
All right, thank you to Comstar for sponsoring this episode of the Simuldub Saints. Since 2788, Comstar has been providing all FTL communication services across all known space. They're not just a telecom company, of course. They're also the bank. They control the contract system for all of the overarmed mercenaries throughout the Inner Sphere, and they even have enough firepower to repel invasions by entire civilizations of psychotic super soldiers.
Ooh.
Isn't it comforting to know that no matter where or who you are, a highly militarized and quasi-religious organization is always watching over you and listening to your every word? I find that very comforting. Don't you, LK?
At least it's not the periphery.
I guess. Well, Comstar, you have no choice. You have been billed 1 C-bill for listening to this advertisement. Wait, what? The fuck? Assholes.
It's an anti-sponsorship.
I did not say that. I said nothing. Well, they're
I
not,
heard
they're
it.
not billing.
I heard you say, go. I'm reporting some wrong thing.
Well, when the white chips show up and kill us all, it's your fault.
Anyway.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Anyway,
Gosh.
To be clear, okay, they're not billing us, and the payment for this, just so you know, comes in the form of lessening of fees for our distribution this week.
Oh,
so,
well, that's nice.
It comes to the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently, if I'm reading the legalese right, the billing is for all our listeners. So all our listeners there, you better pay that 1 C bill. Or, because we all know, always pay your bills, fucko.
Another shout out to the Black Pants Legion.
Yep, and the BattleTech community in general. I love each and every one of you.
Indeed. Well, that about does it for the Simuldub Saints. So, Archangel, where can the people find you?
Well, I've set up a temporary office in Balmora recently, the city in Vardenfell, not the planet. So that's where I've been operating out of recently. But if you need to get a hold of me, the Imperial Post being what it is, I think you're better off contacting LK.
All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter at LaserKidPrime. Find me on Blue Sky at LaserKid when I remember that I have a Blue Sky. You can find the Simuldub Saints on Twitter at Simuldub Saints. You can also find them on Facebook, which is linked in our YouTube page. We also have our podcast hanging out on Spotify Podcasts and several other podcast platforms that it pushes out to for the audio version. You poor guys are gonna have 2 episodes go up at once because I still haven't put out the Konosuba episode in audio format yet, but I will. AX is kind of threw everything into crisis mode, but we'll get there. You can also find me personally over on the Toonami Faithful podcast, as well as written editorial works over on the Toonami Faithful website. We have an episode coming out real soon, probably around the same time this one does, where we go into the most recent episode of my adventures with Superman, as well as some convention news. It's a good time. And plus, I gotta shout out my buddy Sketch, who has running that podcast incredibly well. But yeah,
Right.
that's all she wrote. So until next time, see you later.